see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots, and a sexy
Alright guys,
body
so we're
feel
going to do a
attached.
purposeful extra because we didn't quite get this into episode 22, but there have been some happenings going on around the not so latest DC movie, as in, I almost said Catgirl. I can't even get it right the fourth time. Batgirl. Um, and apparently, the big hubbub is that the Batgirl movie, which apparently is almost completed, along with the Scoob prequel, have
They
been
said the Batgirl
shelved.
movie was like 90+% done.
Yeah, I mean it was like done, done,
Mhm.
done, done. Anyways, so I guess the obvious big hubbub is the fact that some people saw this movie and supposedly it tested so badly that they just said fuck it and threw it in a box and up onto the top of the dustiest shelf they had so they wouldn't bother to look at it ever again. Um, but according to a few articles, and by the way, this is roughly a 70 to 90 million dollar movie to begin with. For them to just throw it away, it's like, oh, that seems odd. Why would they waste so much money? And then, it kind of, and sometimes comes down to just taxes. So actually recording a quote unquote loss of several $100 million, if you add in the other movie that they scrapped too, can technically be beneficial for such a thing.
And it's
But
not the first time that that's happened for a movie studio to can something even after they spent X amount of dollars on it.
exactly, but you almost never hear about it. Like you think some of
I-
those Marvel things that never came out didn't happen this exact way, but we never heard about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as John Oliver was apt to point out on his show this past week, as he welcomed his new potential overlords, it's a little bit like taking the warehouse that you just bought and setting it on fire to just claim the insurance money.
hmm Yeah, it's pretty similar because there was a buyout, right? Discovery bought out or bought
Right.
into. Is
Yeah,
it
well,
just Warner Brothers or Time Warner?
it's just the Warner Brothers property, and it just happens to encapsulate the properties that Warner Brothers work on, but also the HBO Max portion of that in the streaming services.
Yeah, and I guess Discovery bought CNN as well, just on a
Right.
Who the
so.
fuck knew Discovery had that goddamn much money laying around?
Well, because you think of Discovery as a channel, Discovery is a corporation at this point. Yeah, so it's not just a small thing; it's a conglomeration at best under the Discovery, top down thing,
Yeah.
because that was a big deal for YouTubers as well who were having their channels bought by Discovery, um, and bringing it into like a MCN almost. And so that was a really big deal because a whole bunch of channels ended up essentially shutting down because Discovery bought them to keep them from being competition to shows they wanted to do that were similar. So,
Yeah.
this
It's
it's
not the
it's
first. It's not their first precedence either. I mean, if you look at
no,
the network that Hasbro created, the Hub, from back in 2015,
I forgot
I'm sorry,
about that.
2017.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, because Hasbro was not doing so well, for a variety of reasons, and it was not. I can't. I find it hard to believe some of the reasoning behind it, but it's mostly viewership and lack of programming for better intents. Even though My Little Pony was kind of their bread and butter,
Mhm.
but they were not doing well. They were bleeding cash, and it's hard to run a network. It's hard to run a cable network, much less anything that's going to be on at air. And so Discovery approached them and bought them, and they were like, "Well, we're going to keep the brand," and then the brand literally stuck around for maybe about maybe about a month, and then they were completely rebranded, and there were cuts, and it turned into Discovery Family, and yeah. So I mean, it's not the first precedence, and it's not the first precedence of Discovery basically being that um, absorbing remora of media that they like to be, but the problem is what they turn it into, which you said is either they absorb to for the factor of removing competition, or they do so for their own gain.
Well, yeah. I mean, you want to buy something that's going to make money, generally speaking, or you buy something so that you have a loss. And looky here, right after they buy it, the last couple things that were technically, they were the last two movies, I believe, that were attached to HBO Max, if I remember correctly, within that deal, of that gigantic deal they did to basically dump every new WB/DC movie on HBO Max. Apparently that was part of it.
I thought Batgirl was supposed to go to theaters.
It was going to be a both.
It was going to be a both.
It was
I
both.
think that was part of the issue that
yeah, because it was under the old regime. It was the last two things under the old regime. So for them to claim it was audience reaction for the reason they're canning it versus, we're not doing that anymore, you know.
Because it's not, it's hard, and the last couple of days there's been some reaction, and so one of those was from Kevin Smith, who's worked on several projects for DC, on the CW, directed several episodes.
Done some episodes of The Flash.
And right, and so
and some animated stuff too, if I recall.
Right, and he apparently was tied to another project that was originally going to be an HBO Max project that got scrapped because this was happening. And so his thing was, his take on it is, it's hard to believe that it was just purely on the basis of screening. You don't just dump a $70-90 million movie, $75-90 million movie on the basis that it's, that it doesn't look good. You do so because you're just trying to create that rough. And so the other side to that is, of course, what does get eventually released, which Ezra Miller's The Flash is still on that table to be released.
Which is crazy that that's still coming out with all that bullshit going on. But Batgirl, that we barely heard anything out, is the one that they tossed.
Well, the funny thing about that is that with everything that's going on, how many times has the Flash movie been rescheduled? I mean, presumably that is the more expensive movie. That's got to be probably 120 million, if I had to guess, with virtual effects and either way, you know what I mean. Because we got to have multiple Ezra Millers on screen. You're gonna have all kinds of Flash moving around stupid fast, time travel, God knows what else in that movie. So I mean, that movie's probably Michael Keaton's in both movies.
I know, and that's the biggest reason why I'm mad about Batgirl being gone.
Yeah. Okay. So just bringing that up just real quick before we get off that thought, because I have it up right here. Because I didn't know enough about this movie, and I'm sure a lot of people didn't. So this movie was going to feature Michael Keaton as Batman. Probably a particularly aged Batman, who knows. J.K. Simmons was technically coming back as Commissioner Gordon, which means this is in the Nolanverse?
Snyderverse.
No, Snyderverse, sorry. Had the wrong director in my head. And then Brendan Fraser as Firefly. Presumably,
what the fuck?
Presumably he lost weight for that, because he's not like the big, from, what is it? Not almost called Suicide Squad. What's the other one? That's on HBO. What is that? What is the one that he's called where he's the robot?
Oh, fuck.
You know what I'm talking about. It's
not the Mod Squad, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, what is that called? Why can't we think of it?
The other DC thing.
Yeah, that other DC weird team that nobody knows about. So
damn, I'm brain farting on that.
Yeah, me too. Same. That's all. None of us can remember, but I'm sure Bobby could.
Doom Patrol.
Doom Patrol. There we go.
Patrol.
Yeah. So
Good God.
So everybody here.
As a kid.
Yeah. So everybody under this movie already has done DC properties, because J.K. Simmons was Commissioner Gordon in the Snyderverse, which is interesting how we get Keaton as Batman also in the Snyderverse, or is it just that J.K. Simmons is a multi-dimensional being who just stays as the same character through different timelines like he does in Marvel as well.
And he's also J. Jonah Jameson.
That's what I was
He just
getting
demands pictures of Batman instead of Spider-Man.
As long as he's got the mustache, that's all that matters. If he shaves the stash, it's over. I'm sorry. He's got a very weak upper lip. It's kind of saggy. He needs the mustache. Have you seen him with that whole beard? Like, where he's just like, you seen those pictures of him just completely like shredded in like a wife beater with his long beard? Yeah. It's like, don't fuck with J.K. Simmons. He's not fucking around, dude.
It's hardcore.
Now, I know that Ricky and I greatly disagree on this, but I could give a fuck less about Michael Keaton reprising his role as Batman, whether it's in this movie or in the Flash movie. I don't care.
I like it for the nostalgia because it was a movie that I watched in the theaters, highly excited about. I was one of those where, I didn't stand in line for it, but it's always exciting when it's, when you have something that's being Tim Burton directed that is going to be a definite popcorn movie of the summer, so to speak. So I think that Keaton is definitely identifiable as Batman no matter what generation, because there are a whole other generation of people that are suddenly like, for one, last year there was a Reddit that of somebody that was of a certain generation where they basically said, "Man, I wish Michael Keaton would be in a Batman movie," and somebody went back and said, "Didn't you know they were already?" And so when
Was
that
it Taika
happened, apparently,
Waititi?
well, it was sort of like a whole generation of millennial minds just kind of went
But
pop.
wait, why would they?
So
But why would they want Michael Keaton as Batman? I guess because they saw him as Vulture and thought he'd be a good Batman.
because they saw him as Vulture Batman, because of
At least Birdman makes sense.
Birdman was kind of his haha at himself in a way, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's I mean, you see that and then you think, hey, he's perfect for this thing. So, but there's again, this is where mental consonance comes into play, where you remember certain things and you don't remember them a certain way. So I think that's part of it too, is the nostalgia factor of remembering how things really were versus how they are in reality. So people feel that nostalgia tweak for it.
yeah.
Um,
No, that's for
because there
sure.
are because granted we're now at Batman number 6 technically, and so we've had plenty of iterations that not have done better, but have done their own versions. Um, Keaton definitely was that good as Bruce Wayne, not great as Batman. Good as Batman, not great as Bruce Wayne, depending upon what camp you're in. Um,
I thought he was
you know,
fine as
the,
both.
I think that they all play them differently. Clooney always played a more of the playboy, that playboy that likes to
Excuse me, I
beat
don't know
people up
what
at
you're
night.
talking about.
Kilmer was the one
I
who
remember Kilmer. That's the one with the Riddler and
yeah,
Two Face,
yeah.
and then there was Bale. So I don't know what y'all are talking about.
Oh, I see. A purist. Okay. Um,
Ricky
I
does
mean,
not. Ricky does not acknowledge the existence of bat nipples.
I mean, I'm assuming bats have nipples because they're mammals.
Can you milk a bat, Ricky?
Probably.
I'm gonna
yeah,
totally name this, even though it already had a point. I'm naming this "Can you milk a bat?"
can you milk a bat? Yes.
Girl.
No, I would agree. The suits were absolutely atrocious, and
Yeah.
that is probably the worst of the
Well,
franchise.
let's swing this back around from Batman nostalgia to the current issue at hand. Um,
How do you even market Ezra Miller now? It's a
you
toy.
don't actually market Ezra Miller. You just apparently
You
he's leading
literally
a cult on
market
an
Michael
island right now.
Keaton.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? All these people are going off about this Ezra Miller shit, and everybody I see going on about it. They share screenshots of this site and that site, and I'm like, y'all do realize these are like the digital versions of National fucking Enquirer, right? And y'all are swearing by this.
Yeah.
When this is all said and done, they're gonna finally get a hold of this dude and talk to him, and all it's gonna be wrong. You watch and see. It's all gonna be wrong. The same people that read this shit and assume that it's actual fact are the same people that believe there's a bat boy in Guatemala and shit.
Or they could be right, and meth is truly a hell of a drug.
Or they
Hmm?
could see the actual videos of him committing actual actions and
We're
yelling
not talking about
crazy
him
shit.
slapping people. That's not what people are worried about. They're not. That's not the part that's got him in the fire line. It's supposedly he kidnapped somebody. Supposedly he was grooming somebody. Supposedly he's out starting a cult. Supposedly he's breaking into people's houses, stealing shit at gunpoints. This is the shit that's gonna come out as bullshit.
Yeah, more than that's entirely possible, and that is
Him slapping the
entirely
fuck out of somebody. He already owned that. He said that was him. It was on video. How are you gonna deny that?
Yeah.
But it's the equivalent, though, in my opinion, of like putting Mel Gibson into a first line movie after he's had his next psychotic rant on a voicemail. I mean,
Which
is that
which they
really?
have done.
which they have done. I mean, at what point, this is Hollywood.
Si- side note.
Forgiveness is divine, according
Side
to your
note.
box office.
Why is nothing happening with the Alec Baldwin situation?
Is he still back to eating cheeseburgers in the bathtub again?
No, he killed somebody, and they're not doing anything about it. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
like,
I think they're really trying to be as quiet as
they
possible.
They are keeping that buried as possible.
Mm-hmm.
If anything happens with it, they're not going to make it public.
Yeah, the only movie that will see less light of day than
exactly.
Song of
That movie will never see the light of day.
Which one?
Rust was the name of the movie. It was a western. So either way, with the Batgirl thing too, like, I don't know, like, I don't even know what all the outcry is exactly, other than people are like mad that we won't get another Keaton Batman for a while, or I guess maybe there's some people out there bitching about racism or something because it was a Hispanic-ish girl playing Barbara Gordon this go around. But
nobody gives a shit about it.
Well,
Me personally,
the problem
as a
is
Bat fan, I don't give a fuck that they recast it into a different race.
correct, and it's
it's
doesn't
just the
really
actress
matter.
in general. She does look fairly white. That's not really the point, because J.K. Simmons is still playing her dad. So it's not that big a deal.
Did you not see 2016 Fantastic Four?
Yeah, and that movie was garbage.
Yeah, but I mean, that just because J.K. Simmons playing her dad doesn't mean she can't be of a different race. Johnny Storm, Sue Storm.
Yeah, she was adopted.
So this one could be adopted. This is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Either way, it's stupid. Okay, hold on. I'm going to make this argument real quick. Fundamentally changing a character, something Rikki was wholly against on the Marvel side. Okay, well,
changing the spirit of a character.
Yeah, well, part of the spirit is that she's a white girl with red hair.
That's not part of the spirit.
It's part of every version in the comic books.
Girl with incorrect. She was a white girl with blonde hair who wore a red wig when she was wearing the bat suit.
Well, in the modern version, she actually has red hair.
Dick face.
In the modern version, she has red hair, not blonde hair.
Well, in the original, she was blonde haired, so I guess it was appropriation that they made her redhead now. Now all blondes should be mad.
No, but we already seen how bad red wigs look. We'll just look at Batwoman, for instance. How bad they did there.
Well, here's a good question for you. If it hasn't been put into a comic, does that make it... If it has been put into a comic, does that make it logical? Or if it hasn't been put into the comic, does it make it logical? Because you were talking about Red Hood the other day. Right, female Red Hood, male Red Hood. Your pick Red Hood. It's all about the interpretation of the character.
Yeah.
If they introduce this version, then that means that there's going to be media that comes out about it. Even if it doesn't, even if the movie never comes to any type of release, it will still get some sort of media.
I think
you gotta remember go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, one thing is that really annoys me, at least with DC, is that there's been no consistency across their movies, because they've played with different timelines now. They're playing with, because now they want to reboot everything, get away from everything Snyder. They said, nope, we're done with the Snyderverse 1,000,000%. And that could also be, maybe that
would be the driving force why this movie's done.
Yeah, this would be too close to the Snyderverse, realistically. Even technically the Flash movie is as well, but they're using that as a reset point anyways, even though it's going to reset its own self. But, like, I get what you're saying, because you can always make another version of the character, and this was my argument for the MCU characters. It's like, these are these versions of the characters. What came before doesn't matter, because it's an amalgam character of whatever it is they want to build from the source material.
But then you still missed the point of my counter argument. Was not that they changed.
No, I don't care about your spirit of the character. I don't care about that. This is what Rob just said. I don't care about your
looks of the characters, is what I'm just saying. This is what I'm trying to tell you.
What Rob just said was,
matters.
No, what Rob just got at was that if you make a new one, then that's the one it is. It has nothing to do with what came before. You can make a female version. You can make a black version. You can make a gay version.
But they still, even when they make new ones in the movies, they still make them have the same spirit as the character from the comics, because they still are tied together.
But they don't have to.
Imagine if they made a Red Hood movie where he was a fucking hippie with peace, love, and no war, and walked around putting flowers in guns. Was that still Red Hood?
Could be. If it's
Oh,
Jason
get the
Todd and he
fuck
wears
out
the
of here, man!
costume.
You will willingly take the most absurd statement that I just fucking made just to say you were right in that conversation. That is ridiculous that you think that's Red Hood.
Hey,
What if it's some chick named Jacina Todd and she's a fucking hippie and putting flowers in there? Is that still Red Hood?
I don't know if they make it make sense
Exactly.
logically,
How
like
much-
Rob just
how-
said.
Depends
How is it
upon where the
logically?
copyright lies. It depends upon where the
That's-
copyright lies.
I understand what Rob's saying is by law it's the same person, but we're not talking about.
No, we're
whether
not
it's
talking about
the
law.
character,
person.
because
No, he's saying what Rikki is saying is that you have a character, and this is why character and universe Bibles exist.
Mhm.
George Lucas has it. Most science fiction writers have it. Tolkien, whole volumes to it.
the Silmarillion or whatever.
Exactly. There's a whole Bible of what, and I use the term because it is a term. It is an actual term. This is a
Yes, I'm
codex
not
of-
referring to it as a religious text. No.
Correct. This is an actual codex of what this universe is supposed to be. What the characterizations are, and that's the key. DC's characterizations are significantly looser than Marvel's.
Well, not now.
Not now, but they
It's-
had been to a certain extent.
And when you had and I agree, when you have a singular source of canon, one comic, one novel, one movie, one TV show, then you can absolutely claim, nope, we're sticking to this as the only version. This is our reference point. This is our spirit.
And Rikki is saying from his perspective that just because you basically paint a duck face on it, it doesn't actually make it a duck because because
If it
if you
looks like a
change what
duck
the
and quacks
character-
like a duck, it ain't no chicken.
Correct, because if you're changing the actual characterization of the character to match whatever your script is or whatever your writing is, that
Mhm.
doesn't really mean that it's the character. It just means that it's something that somebody created that they put the name on there, and then it becomes more fan fiction, somebody's fan fiction from
Well,
their basement.
Sure,
See, my
and
thing
that's
is, I don't
fine.
care if it's white, black, purple with pink polka dots, gay, straight, male, female. I don't care. But Red Hood better be somebody with angsty attitude and wanting to kill people. Somehow is connected to Batman and has to work his way back to getting himself straight with Batman and straightening out his need to kill people. Other than that, that's the spirit of Red Hood. Everything else is just trappings on top of that.
Okay.
Rikki just made his point right there.
Okay. Okay.
Fandom preference of a character.
Okay. And I've been saying for a while now, I don't care what fandoms want anymore because the studios don't care what the fandoms want anymore. So you can either hate everything that comes out that's different to what you want, or you can accept, as you kind of said the other day, that what you're given is what is.
But I don't hate everything that the studios put
I'm
out.
not saying you hate everything, but I'm saying, like, for Mike, for instance, with all the Marvel stuff lately. It's like it's too far away from canon, too far away from the comic books. I don't like this that they did with this. I don't like this that they did with this. Sounds like basically all the whiny internet bros. What I'm getting at is I'm so tired of bitching about the difference from whatever source you want to pick that I just want to accept what's here and now and given to me and judge it on its own merit rather than hold it to the impossible standards of whatever canon on Tuesday fits it. Or doesn't fit it, depending on my argument. Because
And
so
I
the
would
Batman.
imagine several people feel that way.
So look
too.
at it this way: the Batman White Knight comics that I'm reading right now, way outside of normal canon, way outside of it.
Mhm.
But guess what? It's one of the best Batman stories there are. But I guarantee
It's also
you,
its own
there are people.
continuity. It's not the main Batman.
Okay, so this is not. So this Hulk that you were so angry about, this Thor that you're so angry about.
I wasn't angry
Are-
about Thor. I said the Thor movie sucked. See,
Okay.
you didn't listen because I said
No, I
actually
listened to you
liked
because you
Thors
hate
because
what they did with Thor. You hate the way he
I
acts like a
don't- no, no.
doof.
No. I said he acts like a doof. I said the movie was stupid. I said I was in for Thor because I didn't read comic books. I had no preconceived
Okay.
notion. This isn't
Then
Thor
Hulk.
is not Batman to me.
Then Hulk. You bitched about Hulk a lot.
She-Hulk sucked.
Okay.
It sucked
What are you holding that
compared to
to?
what she's supposed to be.
So what are you holding
the
that
spirit
to?
of the spirit of the character that she is.
Okay, well, stop.
She is a
because
she's a-
this is the new spirit of this
No.
character. This is not the
No,
spirit of
it's
whatever
not.
you want to base it on. This is
No,
this.
then they needed to make it a whole different character. Then
No,
don't make it that character.
Then no one should ever rewrite a character once it's been written the first time.
But they always kept her spirit
what
the same,
you
even when they
just said.
rewrote her.
No, it's not in the spirit of what? Which She-Hulk is she not the spirit of?
Batman, Batman Beyond, Batman, The Dark
Okay.
Knight Returns. All these are all very different Batmans, but they all had the same spirit of Batman linked through all of them.
But they can change it anytime they want. Like Mike bitching about Batman being gay in one of the later comics. One of the recent comics. Is that in the spirit of Batman?
What's his sexual orientation got to do with the spirit of the character?
What does anything of the aspect of the character have to do with the spirit?
That's asinine.
No, it's not. No, it's about the person.
Actually not.
Well, no. What does their money? What does the tools he use? Is he wearing the costume? Sure, that's part of the spirit of the character. Did his parents get
you
killed?
could take all that. You could take all that away, and they've already done that in the comics when he went back through time after he got shot by fucking what's his face Darkseid with the Omega beams, and they did the caveman Batman. He didn't have no money and no gadgets. They did the pirate Batman, same thing. They did the pilgrim Batman, same thing. The spirit of Batman stayed the same through all of them.
That was literally Bruce Wayne. That was not a different character.
But that was him
literally
being
the same character.
Time though.
But it was the
but
same.
He was not the same
because
he didn't know he was the same. He didn't know. Read him again. I have him.
I do too.
He didn't know who he was.
I have the whole thing.
He thought he was crazy. He didn't know anything of what was going on. So internally, his the thing that makes him who he is stayed the same regardless of everything else.
Yeah, he's a sociopath with money. Beats up mentally disturbed people with his money.
Okay. It can be all of that.
That too. He likes to make orphans.
It can be all of that, but it's still the same.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing is, and this is something that I consistently say because, case in point, Transformers fan.
No one's a Transformers fan.
My favorite version of said character is from blank.
Yes.
From what?
So it's whatever your favorite iteration of that character is from, and this also brings up just a sidebar.
Mm-hmm. This has all been a sidebar.
Why does everything have to be a crisis of infinite whatevers on DC's part?
Yeah.
Or a multiverse of whatever. I mean,
that's the only way they know.
It's a lazy way to try to introduce characters to the universe that.
That and to reset what they did in the last year or two.
They do the same thing in Marvel. What are you talking about? How's
they
it been
both do. Both houses have done this for years, though.
It used to be just sporadically. Now it's like all the fucking time.
Yeah, well, DC did 3 major complete reboots of their comic universe in 3 years, all with major crisis events.
It makes more sense to me that every 3 to 5 years do a complete reset, because if not, it's going to get boring.
Yeah, but they did it 3 times in 3 years.
It's a lot
because they weren't making any good sales, so they thought it was the fucking. Yeah, they did the New 52.
That's the
then they did the Rebirth, and then they did whatever the fucking newest one is.
They did everything with the Dark Knight's Metal, Year of the Villain, all that kind of stuff. Reset it after that, and then they actually canned, as far as I know, the New Age of Heroes. They actually brought in an entire run of new heroes, canned them all, and reset the universe again after that. So, which version of Batman was in that?
Whichever one makes you right, dude.
Wait, what about Damian in Deceased? Is he the spirit of Batman?
Sure.
No, I'm asking a legit question. I don't even need to be right. I'm asking you a question because you're the uber Batman fan here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so is Damian Wayne Batman not count? It's in the same continuity.
It's not really. It's the zombie one, right?
Yeah, it's in continuity somewhere.
That's not.
It branches off from the same universe somewhere and then just goes in a different direction. That's the problem with them doing so many different stories.
I'm a fan of Superman in the multiverse where he flies around with his head stuck up his ass. I mean, come on. Batman.
But the whole point is
a zillion things.
There's legitimately like 13 different Batman comics going right now, and none of them are tied to each other. None of them are even tied to each other. That's the insane part. So even within Batman, they're doing a constant multiverse thing. I mean, they got 89 Batman going on. They got a current Batman Beyond, not just the White Knight, but they got the Batman Beyond.
Is he still somebody with whatever means he has striving against evil taking over the world?
I don't know, because I'm not going to read all 13 different versions of it.
Okay. So then the spirit of Batman stays the same if that's what it is.
That's just a hero. So
We're talking
so
Batman specific though. You specifically made it Batman, so I'm telling you, as long as he's following those rules, then it's Batman. And if you
okay.
really want to take it down to the nitty gritty, then as long as he's more focused on Gotham than the rest of the world, then it's Batman.
Hmm. What?
Gotham, New Gotham, Neo Gotham, whatever fuck
So
Gotham you want to call it.
okay.
Gotham by Gaslight.
So let me legit question though, since we're on this. All of the Dark Knights, all the evil versions of Batman,
The Dark Knight's like
are
the
the
Batman who
Batman who
laughs and shit.
laughs, all those
Uh-huh.
are those Batman.
It's from a whole inverted universe, so it wouldn't be on the same spirit of Batman because it's an inverted universe.
Well, he
That
was
was that was their version of the Upside Down.
yeah, but in those universes, Batman had a bad day.
No, he
And
didn't have a bad day.
no, it really did. Okay, so right now they have the release upcoming up Batman One Bad Day storyline coming up, where it's Joker basically trying to prove his point that literally anyone
Yeah,
can become.
it's the Killing Joke.
Yeah, yeah, it's so anything like that. But in the case of all the Dark Knights from the Dark Knight's Metals series, all of those versions of Batman had something go so tremendously wrong that they did something crazy to try to make up for it. Alfred dying, uh,
Well, the only
her.
one where it was actually Bruce Wayne Batman is because he was injected with Joker venom, and he became the Batman who laughs.
Well, no, all of them were Bruce Wayne except for the
Yeah,
one.
no, they're all technically, but they're all like the multiverse. Like, so he didn't become Batman, became Green Lantern. He didn't become Green Lantern. He was a girl, and he became Aqua Girl. I mean, like,
Well,
you
that's
see
the
what I'm
only
saying? Like,
one
it
where it
gets
was literally a
crazy.
different character. That was the
It
only
gets
one where he was a different. He, Batman, quote unquote, was a different character, but it was the same
You see what I
person in
mean?
a different universe. But I mean, that's the thing. You can get mad about multiverse. You can get mad about all these things. So
I'm not mad about multiverse because those aren't the Batman I'm talking about.
okay, but that means you have the one Batman
Yeah, the main
that you care about.
continuity. What is it? Earth
Which
616 or whatever the fuck you want to call it now?
which main
Whatever
continuity?
number.
Yeah,
Earth
whatever number
Prime.
they made up this time. That one.
Yeah, I think it's Earth Prime from now on.
Sure, that one.
Okay, well that one has gone
And
through
then I like all
17 different
different variants
reboots.
of, and I like and
So
every
how
character has.
so how
Marvel,
far
DC,
so how far
Spawn went from being an agent of hell to being the
so
leader of hell to
but
being an
that's
actual fucking angel in heaven to being like God in one part. I
in
mean,
one continuity.
no,
Not
Spawn only has one continuity.
well, there's two now, but or three now.
Oh well, that's good for
But
them. But it
the
was
thing
just
is
one.
with Batman and a lot of these comics, even through Marvel, they've been through so many reboots, they've gone through so many rewrites. Same thing with the movies. So the point is, you can nitpick all day and long about which Batman is your favorite, and therefore anything that isn't that is bad and needs to die. And I'm gonna
No,
tell you, I'm gonna
I
judge
didn't say it
each
needs to
thing on its
die.
own.
That's crazy because what I said to you was in that whole thing about She-Hulk, even after all that big rant I did, I said I'm still gonna watch it when it's done.
Well, I didn't say you weren't gonna watch it.
I didn't say I wanted it to die because it was wrong.
No.
I said I'm not gonna sit there and enjoy it like everybody else, piece by piece. I'm gonna watch it as a whole, and hopefully I'll enjoy it more, like I did with Miss Marvel. If I'd watched Miss Marvel week to week, I would not have liked that show. Watching it as a whole, I liked it more than what I would have week to week
So I don't understand that.
because it
But
gave me that week to sit there and go, man, this is what I hate about that, and just dwell on that.
yeah, I guess. I don't see it that way, but I didn't experience it that way. But that actually leads us really into Rob's next point about the streaming issues that are coming up in the
Right.
future.
So the idea, and this is really where we're going to get into, like, I think 2023, 2024, is the amount of content that gets created by these entertainment houses. So we have by default Netflix, which has been the runner for almost almost 2 decades now.
Mhm.
We have Hulu, we have Amazon Prime. These are the big boys of the streaming environment. They had made the decision years ago to start creating their own content, to create their own movie houses, to create their own production companies, or to sublet production companies to make content for them. Are they making money off of this? They are, just basically by increasing the rates to subscribers. So some of the things about Netflix is what they're going to be what they're not going to be taking on, which now saying that based on the fact that they've been spending oodles of money on these things, these movies that are not making them any type of profit or any type of watchability, they are going to basically try to stop making mega movies. And I think, like, Disney is not a good point of reference on this because Disney is its own beast.
Yeah.
But if you're talking like Netflix or Hulu or any of those houses that do create these contents, yes, it makes sense for them to scale back, especially because they've reached saturation on their subscribers.
Real
They've
quick,
reached that point.
unfortunately, you can't lump Hulu in with that because Disney owns them too. So you can't lump
Disney,
Hulu in there because
that
they
is
got
true.
Disney's money.
Yeah, that is true. But Disney's profitability of Hulu is based upon how long Hulu can actually deliver B-roll studio house materials to them.
It also feels
Um,
like they basically use Hulu as a syndication machine.
exactly.
Yes, I mean Netflix
So
is the
from what
same
I
way.
understood is
So
the plan is to dump non-family friendly stuff into Hulu and
yeah,
family friendly
well,
stuff Disney side.
see that's what's really stupid about that because then that means they would have to move any somewhat violent Marvel movie now or Fox movie over there.
No, but they would put like the Deadpool movies over there.
Yeah,
They'd
so
put any of
so
those type stuffs over there.
why? I mean, at that point, tear Hulu down and rebrand it as Disney over 18 or something. I don't know what the fuck to call it.
They
That
wouldn't even have to
nonsense,
do that
but
much because on Disney Plus you can put it on adult
yeah,
only
that's
where it has
exactly
all
my
the stuff
point.
your kids can't
So
have it. But they want them separated completely because it's the House of Mouse. It's all friends. It's all friendly. Da 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 da. Da. It can't be any of that stuff.
yeah, see, that's why it's ridiculous, and in my opinion, for them to use it that way, But like what Rob is getting at is that basically all of these streaming services, Disney mostly excluded because they're their own entity before anything ever existed. They make their own shows. They sink $100 million into a show. They sink $50 million into a show
They were
or
sinking
a movie.
billions into that Marco Polo show for a while there.
Yeah. Well, like we talked about the other day, how much the Lord of the Rings show cost, almost $500 million. And that was literally just Bezos wanting to make something happen, and they don't give a shit what kind of money they get back. But Amazon is almost its own beast too, because it's tacked on to your Prime subscription, has nothing to do with that in the first place. So it's like,
They
and they're
make
making
oodles of money off their
yeah.
subscribers,
So
just like
even
Netflix does.
yeah, even Amazon
Amazon spend
basically
their own money.
yeah, so we don't even need Amazon in this discussion. So it's basically Hulu by itself, Netflix, HBO Max, realistically, because more people probably have Max at this point than they have actual HBO as a channel anymore. Is there
I haven't even had
Max
HBO.
kind of shot themselves in the foot too
Paramount.
because HBO Max shot themselves in the foot because what happened last year? We had the Batman released. We had so many blockbusters that were released that everybody was finally like, "Hey, I really should try out that free trial," but I forgot to cancel the free trial when it was done. So
They
got
always,
looped in.
all of them expect you to do that. But I think the biggest issue came, and I think one of these articles brought it up. One of the multiple articles we got here on this topic was that, like, with HBO, especially with the whole DC movies and WB stuff, it's like, okay, now you have a problem because you're simultaneously releasing these things. So you're actually kind of hurting the box office numbers by putting this out either simultaneously or specifically on HBO Max. Now during COVID, okay, it made sense, but they could also charge you $20 for the movie,
To like
and
rent
then
it, yeah.
you have it forever. I mean, Disney did the same thing with several of their movies that weren't released for quote unquote free.
They also got really scared, and I think a lot of the studio houses got scared with Mulan, and that was the true test. Of
Mulan
fire.
was a bad one for them to
Well, the one that
start
was the worst
with.
was the Black Widow because once that happened, and then Scarlett Johansson had to sue the company for her royalties because
Yeah.
it wasn't worded in there correctly for her to get paid off of a subscription. She was
Because
getting
it
paid
wasn't
off the
part of
back
that.
end of
Yeah.
her deal was paying off the back end of movie ticket sales. Well, then
Yeah.
they released it streaming instead of the movie, so she wasn't getting paid.
Or did it
So
go to the theater at all?
it went both. I think it went both at the same time.
I think it
Like
did. And there wasn't a
that's
delay.
one of those ones. That was one of those ones where it was
It
simultaneous.
didn't have the 45-day delay like
Yeah,
they have
and
now.
then post that and post that and post Mulan is when they inputted that 45-day to 90-day. Like it has to be
Which-
written into the
Lightyear, I think, wasn't even
contract.
45. I think Lightyear
Yeah, I think
was
Lightyear
something
was
like
45.
30. I don't know. I have to look at
Mhm.
it, but it seems like it came out really fast in
I think
comparison.
45
Really
is the minimal right now.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with the Disney / Marvel thing.
Because like Rob said earlier, he said the Batman is the one that came out. No, the Batman's not the one that did that. The Batman came to HBO Max this year. The one that got everybody on the HBO Max free subscription was Wonder Woman.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you, Ricky.
84,
You're
Wonder
right.
Woman
You're
84.
very right.
It was Wonder Woman 84. Everybody signed up for that shit and, it just stayed on.
Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yep.
Yes.
After that. So, I
Yep.
mean, the thing is like, and this has always been the question, the infinite question, how much is
a stream worth?
How much is a stream worth? So it's like, okay, I just watched what movie was that? Okay, so I just watched The Gray Man, or not The Gray Man. You guys watched The Gray Man.
I didn't watch it yet.
Or the wifey did. Sorry.
Yeah,
what was the Uncharted? So I just watched Uncharted, right?
I enjoyed it.
So that movie went to the theater initially. I don't know how much money it made, but now it's infinitely on streaming. But how much money do they only get contract deals for the time that it's on here, and you have to give a specific amount of revenue for however long the movie is hosted on this service?
Or is it per views, like X amount of views gives you X amount of dollars?
Exactly.
Like, there's no way they'll never tell us shit like that.
No, and but they know about it, which is why these changes are happening. Now,
one time we had this conversation about commercials, and I said to y'all, I've never understood how TV commercials work, because they could show that Dodge Ram commercial as many fucking times as they want, and I'll watch it 100 fucking times. But guess what? I'm not gonna go out and buy that Dodge Ram. So that company just spent $1 million fucking for that commercial.
Well, you were talking about the Super Bowl specifically.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
but I'm saying it was specifically the Super Bowl, but it's still the same thing.
Yeah.
I've never understood how they can say that this commercial is worth this much because we'll make this much income.
Well, here's a
because
question.
this many people will see it, and therefore this many people will buy it. Like, it
Hold
gets
on.
into statistics, and statistics is
What if we hit on the answer to that earlier? They blow a buttload of fucking money on an advertisement in what month? February?
Yeah, into January, beginning of February.
And that's when tax season kind of, not tax season, but
hopefully catch all those tax.
Yeah, so you actually catch that. Not even that. What I'm saying is they're using it as a loss. They throw the advertisement as a loss, not as they
make it up on the back end.
They make it.
But I think it's the same thing. But what I'm saying is it's all smoke and mirrors. Like,
it's always
even
been
to
smoke
themselves.
and mirrors.
Like, we don't understand it because they won't give us the numbers. But even sitting in a boardroom, if I'm sitting here telling you, hey, you give me $1 million, I'll play your commercial, and maybe in 10 years you'll recoup that $1 million based off of that one commercial. How the fuck are you going to give me $1 million?
But the thing is, it's not about earning. But what I'm saying is, it's not about earning that money back on sales. It's about using that expenditure as a write-off and a loss.
Correct.
So they don't have to make $1 million back. They say they lost $1 million on this thing, and that becomes a thing. Yeah, don't ask me how that shit works. I don't run corporations.
That's what I'm saying.
But
it's a marketing thing.
It's marketing. It's all that's the bare minimum of marketing right there. But also the other part of this, especially with Netflix losing
everything,
a lot of fucking subscribers, so they're hurting. Mind you, that they want to increase the prices, but they also want to reduce their cost. And I'm on board with them reducing some of these costs. Now, whether it means they stop making full-length movies or they stop making trash series that no one fucking watches.
They should have stayed where they were, which was showing stuff that people want to watch that already pre-existed. That's where they fucked up, is by not keeping that.
Well,
The problem is you can't host that. I mean,
can't infinitely make money on that.
Infinitely host that resource.
No,
they're not like the Library of Congress. They're not trying to terabytes.
But they had to buy
terabytes
it.
cost.
Yeah, they had to buy the rights to reuse them. That's what I'm saying. Instead of spending money on these shows, use that money to keep those back in there. Pay NBC more money, they'll let you keep Friends. Pay NBC more money, they'll let you keep The Office. If NBC thought they were going to make more money from you showing it than them having to start up their whole own website and then host it and then put their own shows on there and then try to get subscribers over, they would have just let you keep playing it because they were already making the money without having to work for it. And that's where
redheaded stepchild of Peacock.
Yeah, exactly.
I have it. I have it because I love The Office and my wife loves Friends. Well, Friends on HBO. But my wife loves The Office too, and we watch it all the time. We literally got Peacock just because of The Office, and then we'll just randomly watch other shit on
but
it.
Ricky does bring up a good point, and this is this is partially where these services, and going back to this article, they're getting at is that these networks have had the major networks had to find a way to come up with a way to sustain themselves because they were losing money to the streaming services. Now it's kind of a reverse turn because now the networks have gotten smarter, whether it's Paramount Plus, HBO Max, Peacock, or the major these networks are pull their materials back away from these other streaming services because it's not
Yeah.
going to make as much money from them
And that's
as
why they have
feel
their
they could
own.
do on their own.
Now they have their own streaming services, which is annoying as hell.
But that bubble has to pop eventually, man. Because I don't know about y'all, but I'm close to playing the same I did for fucking cable, and I had way more channels on cable. So
Which brings up,
Yeah.
which is exactly what I was about to say, Ricky, because that is the case, and we've reached that point of synchronicity where even the a la carte option of a streaming service is no longer really as a sustainable model for us, the consumer.
Yeah, because we're
to
paying
continue to pay
more
for these things.
We're
Right.
paying more for the streaming services and internet than we were paying for just having cable in the first place.
But unfortunately, I think it's going to come down to like gas prices. They can do whatever the fuck they want because guess what? If you want to go somewhere, you need gas. How the fuck else are you going to get it?
Consumer has the preference over what they choose to purchase.
Yeah,
I understood, but if you want to watch TV, you're going to keep buying these streaming services because you're not going to have any other fucking option.
Exactly. Well, the other option would be basically to buy physical media or
And that'll just drive up those prices. If they see people dumping their streaming services and all of a sudden a influx goes up on their seasons of The Office, they'll just raise the prices of that to offset the prices that they lost. That's just how they do.
No, you're right, and that's again fundamental economics and the fundamentals of supply and demand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the problem is that they created the demand in the first place, then started controlling the supply.
And they strangled their own supply.
They strangled their own supply, meaning that people got tired of it. And then, of course, as things should do, you should have choice. You should have market competition. So, because market competition is good. However, when the market synchronizes, then everything gets fucked all at once. And that's kind of where we're at on a lot of these things. A lot of these things are on the bubble, as we were talking about.
Yep.
It's just like, okay, you can't raise your prices so high that the normal person that you need to subscribe won't pay for it. But you also, if you're going to raise the prices, they want to see something on the back end. And it's not like we're talking about gas prices where there is actual work involved on the other end to make gas happen. There's a real actual supply situation there. We're talking about digital media. Like once it's made, it's there forever. You're just paying for server space one way or the other. So, I mean, in theory, when it comes to
greed.
Yeah, well, but beyond that, what I was going to say with digital media, things should eventually get cheaper the longer something exists.
You would think.
Because at some point it's amortized its own cost a long time ago. It's like the fact that a fucking Blu-ray costs you $25 for a movie that already made its budget back 4 times over before they even made the Blu-ray is horseshit.
Dude, talk about go even further, go even deeper and harder on that. Go buy a Blu-ray of The Wizard of Oz. That movie recouped its money 80 fucking years ago.
So all you're paying for, even when you buy a DVD or a Blu-ray, is you're paying
the plastic.
You're paying for the plastic. You're paying for the license fees that someone else paid for. Now it's like I should be able to buy a thing once and it'd be mine. I paid that license and we're good. And I can play it 1.5 million times. Remember when they were doing the digital rentals first? And they're like, pay $15 for 24 hours or 48 hours? It's like, no,
Amazon
fuck you.
Still does that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it makes sense. If it's $3.99, that makes sense. When it's $24.99 or $14.99 for 48 hours, fuck you. That's a movie ticket. But the thing is, I didn't have to go to the theater to watch this. Why would I pay for it again? But
so you're paying for the ease of doing it at home.
Yeah. So
but the problem with it being digital is sorry.
No, you're fine.
The problem with it being digital, like let's just use Mulan. Everybody paid that $30 for the gold or whatever that crap was.
I didn't.
Now they own it. I'm just saying, the people that did, and now they own it digitally for forever. Well, there's a catch in that. It's a small writing in that. And it's the same thing that's on the PlayStation Store. It's the same thing in the Xbox fucking Live Store. Is you have it forever as long as you maintain your subscription with those people. If you ever let your subscription fail, you no longer have access to it. If you stop paying for your subscription for PlayStation, you no longer have access to your DLCs because it's saved into your PlayStation account that you've just shut
Which
down.
is also the risk of, which is honestly the risk of digital
Yep.
media in terms
And
of like
they also
movies
leave it in the
anywhere,
term.
Voodoo,
Yep.
movies anywhere, Voodoo.
It's also in their terms and
you know,
conditions that they can choose to remove it without telling you. So you could pay
Fandango
$30 for it.
yeah, Fandango got
You
bought out last year, so yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay,
You
so
can pay $30 for that Mulan, and Disney Plus decides 5 years from now, oh, this movie's super offensive, so now it's not available to anybody anymore. It's going the way of the Song of the South. They will rip your digital copy straight out of your fucking existence, and you will have lost that $30 for nothing.
And actually, this has
So-
happened before because I have a
I do.
digital library. Apologies.
I'm
I do have a
5.
digital library, and I've done digital
We're all
library,
5.
and I belong to several digital library groups, and there are
Mhm.
instances exactly like you said, Ricky, where the companies, in fact, the publishers, have basically removed media from people's libraries. And these are, we're talking about folks where they kind of treat it almost like a game. Oh, yeah, I got 1,000 movies. I got 10,000.
yeah.
Mhm.
Because
Been
and
there.
it's not so much because they're going to watch it all. It's
Mhm.
purely because
It's
purely
a bragging
out of,
thing.
Yeah.
right, exactly.
It's collector
But
mentality.
again, it doesn't really, even you may have paid for it. You may have paid for that code, but it
But you
really
don't
doesn't
own it.
belong to you. You don't
So-
own it.
Nope.
Now, I wanted to bring this up because you're circling around something I was trying to say a minute ago. Many moons ago,
Mhm.
when I didn't have access to a lot of things, I just had my computer and I had the internet. I didn't have much else going on. I bought the Lost, or not Lost World, the Jurassic World, and which Avengers? I forget which movie. It might have been Age of Ultron.
Age of
I'm
Ultron.
trying to remember which one I bought. It was one of them. Either way, I bought them on iTunes and downloaded them to the computer so I could watch them because I didn't want to go purchase. Not illegally, totally legally, paid for it proper, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And then 3 months later, they ceased to work. Like, no matter what I did, I could not load my movie at all. It was in my library. The file is there, so to speak. Even though I couldn't open it anywhere else, the file was in there. And then a year later, out of nowhere, they work fine. So no idea what was going on there, but it is the issue with having a digital license, because it could have been a weird glitch in Apple's payment processor for all I know. Because I definitely had some issues with iTunes payments and my card being
It
stolen
could also
and stuff
been
through that.
it could also been iTunes fighting to keep those licenses and stuff with
They're-
That's what I was
mean,
gonna
but
say,
they were
because
brand
that's
new.
usually what the case is.
But
Yeah.
I'm saying they were brand new releases at that point. They
Doesn't
weren't.
matter.
Yeah,
Doesn't
but-
matter. Sometimes sometimes it's like a temporary thing
Yeah.
that they have a contract for, and then all of a sudden, somebody says Steve Jobs has 3 nipples, and they get offended.
Oh God.
So and here's another one too that we kind of here's another one that we kind of danced around too. We talked about the digital stuff and the fact that they can pull it back whenever they feel like it. So you have to maintain that subscription to keep access. One thing we're all not even talking about is you also have to maintain your internet access, because if you do not pay your $100 a month to Bright House or Cox Cable or whoever the fuck you have, Verizon, whoever you're using for your cable at home, if you don't have that internet running, you have zero access to all that digital stuff that you paid and bought for too.
See,
Yeah,
So
that's
you're not just paying
interdependence is
$30. You're
See-
not just paying $30 for the movie. You're
Yeah.
also paying the $100 a month for your internet to access that $30 movie that you
Yeah.
bought.
But see, that was the bullshit about the iTunes thing, is that it downloaded an actual digital copy. It wasn't me just portal accessing. So that's why it was even more fucked up that it didn't work, because I
I
should have been
gotcha.
able to watch it on the go. You get the digital download codes when you buy certain Blu-rays and stuff
That's the
like
whole
that.
point.
Yeah. So in theory,
I give my digital down codes away because here's
Yeah.
the deal,
Oh, I
man.
do
If I
too.
decide I'm not paying for my internet anymore, I can still watch those movies because I still have the DVDs and Blu-rays, so they can all go fuck themselves.
yeah. So
My wife still argues with me about buying stuff. I'm like, nope. If it's a movie that I must have, that I really enjoy and I will watch more than once, I'm definitely buying a hard copy of it because we never know.
And I still keep my hard copies, but I convert them to digital. So yeah, no, it's right. The physical copy will still always be your own.
As long as you have a
Now,
player.
granted, as long as you have something that can read it.
Yeah,
Shout out,
which
shout out to
everything's-
RIP VHS.
Breaking out the Betamax, baby.
Breaking out the Betamax. Breaking out the Laserdisc.
Laserdisc.
Oh yeah.
If you have one of those that still functions properly, yes, that'd be great.
Did they ever function properly? I think that was their problem.
They did. No, I've seen several. No, they worked fine. They were just absurdly stupid. Like it just made no sense when CDs already existed. Okay, so real quick though, on this note, if they're having to change a lot of these things to reduce cost, such as they're not going to blow out millions of dollars on huge. They said movies. I don't know if they said anything about shows. They definitely said movies. Does that mean that maybe we'll see a lot more original licenses going back? Like they're just going to dump, you know, just for instance, Lost. Like, so Lost isn't on Netflix. It hasn't been for a while, but it was for a really long time. So just for instance, do they say, okay, look, this is another thing. It's been here for a million years. We don't need to hold on to this license anymore. This. We'll kick these out, so we're not paying for any of this shit. And, you know, we're not going to throw $10 million at this little mini movie this time, you know.
It's possible.
Or
it's
do they
entirely
keep making
possible, and
crap?
they've done it before too.
Yeah. So
There's
I know that.
precedence for it.
So one thing with Netflix, which is really interesting, is the fact that they have bought in on a lot of Asian cinema, a lot of Asian TV shows and stuff like that, and even foreign language, even to otherwise. Like the wife was watching a lot of Spanish. She didn't realize because they were dubbed over.
Shout out to Cable Girls, really good show, folks.
Yeah, Cable Girls is a good show. It's weird, but it's a good show. I like Bomb Girls better personally, but Cable Girls wasn't bad. It went really weird by the end. I talked about it on one of our earliest episodes.
Yeah.
It got really, really off the rails by the end. But so did they start? Did they get rid of international licenses in the future? Like just said, okay, we're gonna get rid of all these Bollywood films. Like one of their highest rated things in the last 2 months was RRR. You know, that's a straight up Bollywood film. So do they not? They didn't produce it. I don't think they just bought it. You know, bought the rights to it to show it. As far as I know. So is it only going to be quote unquote American? Is it going to be in every country? Where does the line stop? You know.
Right.
So I mean, it's
hard to say.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting because we do have we've reached peak market saturation. You literally can't watch enough shows. Like there's if every single streaming service has 2,000 shows and 5,000 movies, you can't spend enough time watching. We haven't reached that level of Black Mirror yet. We will eventually.
We will eventually.
Seriously, watch Black Mirror if you haven't, everybody. I hope they don't ditch that. They need to keep producing that show.
There's where we are at, and again, this is partially generational. Some things will fall off the radar because they're dated.
Sure.
And some things will get revamped because that's how generations remember things.
Where's all the Nickelodeon stuff?
Nickelodeon's sold off to Paramount Plus. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know. That's the only. Apparently, I need Paramount because I know that it was floating around for a little while, sort of attached to Disney.
They don't have a lot of the classic stuff. Like you can't do that on television. They only have a handful of episodes.
They have like Doug and Two Angry Beavers and Rocko's Modern Life. They have shit like that. They have like the 90s cartoons that we grew up on.
So I was just thinking about that because you mentioned the nostalgia thing and quote unquote legacy shows. So
it might even be HBO Max has Cartoon Network stuff.
Max has Cartoon
That's
Network.
true. That's Cartoon Network because that's part of Time Warner. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so that was just sorry. I didn't mean to derail your question there, but you mentioned that, and that was in my mind. I was like, okay, so we have access to all the Disney stuff. We have access to Cartoon Network. I was like, where's Nickelodeon? Of course, the one thing.
Not all the Disney stuff.
All the Disney stuff.
Not all, but a lot.
Not all.
Disney has the Fox Kids catalog for part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they have like the X-Men and stuff on there.
Because they have the Marvel content. That's why.
Yeah. But no, if they had the Fox Kids content, that gets really weird.
But I don't think that has to do with Marvel because they don't have Spider-Man and stuff, which is Sony.
Yeah, because that's Sony.
And no house
But it's
has
Marvel.
no house has other content like Thundercats, Silverhawks.
Yeah, the ones where
Hulu
the
did have
Hulu
Thundercats.
did have Thundercats
Yeah.
for a while. They may still actually. Now I come to think about it, it just depends. It depends on the day as to who has it.
yeah. So
So
Yeah,
it's
plus Hulu's got this other thing that they're hiding stuff behind where it's like it's a locked thing. You have to pay for like Hulu Live or some crap to get to it now.
there's the Hulu where it's like the freshest, like the TV show has to, or like it's a almost live broadcast show, from a network. I know there's that. That's behind a paywall. I know that.
No.
Especially for like, because that's where the wife was watching Grey's Anatomy, the new episodes, because Hulu had the only place you could watch that.
yeah, but HBO
Um,
Max, I mean, and this is the thing too. If HBO Max does get discovered, revamped, hubbed, whatever you want to call it,
mhm.
the content that they have is actually more extensive than what a lot of people are complaining about on the
Oh, it
immediate,
is.
which is just which is just a Batgirl movie. Talking about all the WB franchise pieces, such as Looney Tunes, such as anything that was anything that was relational to a Warner Brothers picture movie. I mean, it's a huge win for Discovery because they will even without trying, they will still earn money if they continue to keep that material. It's just if they decide to just whether or not they decide to attach house hunters to it all.
Yeah,
But,
because Discovery Plus, as far as I know, is also a thing somewhere, or it
correct.
was.
Yeah, still,
So,
well, that's another prime example of things that exist that are a niche that were created out of the void of what do we do because keeping a cable channel is not as
mhm,
profitable as
yeah,
having a streaming.
100%.
Discovery Plus is
A lot of that TLC, old
yes,
Discovery,
and
not sci-fi, but the other one, Science Channel,
yeah.
HGTV, all those were bought by
Mhm.
Discovery. Like all of that content. Now, if they
You see it in
combine that,
doctor's office, it's probably on that. It's
exactly.
probably on that pay service. Yep.
100%. So, and I'll say this, if they don't just wreck HBO, if they just say, cool, we have all this, let's throw all our Discovery Plus shit in here too, then I'm mostly going to focus on HBO Max at that point. Because there's a lot of stuff in there I'd love to watch.
And they could also do
Whoa.
what Disney has done, which is try
Who's,
to
hold on,
make the
hold
best
on.
out of Hulu and ESPN.
Okay, hold on. You're going to need to say that again because somebody's
Yeah, I
phone.
heard that. What was that? That like staticky. What was that?
Weird,
Uh,
wasn't on my. I didn't hear it on my side.
if you
Apologies.
didn't hear it
It
on your
wasn't.
side, it probably was your side.
Oh,
Ah.
Yeah.
you're good.
So I was gonna say what I was saying. Three, two, one. Basically, I mean, they could wind up doing what Disney did, which was to envelop ESPN Plus and Hulu into a package deal, and then say, "Well, pay
Right.
us more,
Yep,
but
yep, yep, yep.
then you'll get this content."
Which I didn't do because, like, I mean, while I
And
want,
we've all been down that rabbit hole too,
oh
with
no,
the get this cable bundle and you'll also get internet and your phone for this price and blah blah blah. And we
mm,
all got fucked on those in the long run because it'd be for the first 3 months and then it jumps up after 6 months and this,
yep.
that, and then a year later it's twice the price you started with. And
Oh, that reminds me, my cable bill is likely about to. Now that we're talking about it, I just realized because I'm
and be
past
forewarned, I don't know if either one of y'all got it on the HasLab. It's coming out next week.
what? Which one?
The His Tank.
Oh, it's not coming out. It just ends next week.
Yeah, that means they're taking the money Monday.
They're gonna
Oh,
take the money, but they're not gonna. They're not.
That's
It's
what I
not ready
mean.
for
It's
release yet.
I
Yeah.
don't mean come out as in release. I mean it's coming out of your paycheck. He's talking about
It's
money
coming out of
coming
your
out for his
paycheck. Oh yeah,
cable.
yeah,
That's what I
no,
meant.
yeah.
The money's
what
coming out.
what I was getting at was the quote unquote not trial period, but whatever they call that, because we moved into this apartment a year ago, and I had to sign up with Consolidated to get the high speed internet here under the introductory price or whatever they call that. And I just realized it's been a year, so I'm
Watch
about to
that
get
price go
fucked
all the
on
way up.
that. Uh-huh.
Oh, it was only $19.99. Guess what? Your new price $99.99.
No, I think
Oh,
it
you want to
was,
cancel it? That'll be $59.99. I
yeah,
mean, these fucking guys are killer, man.
yeah, I just realized that too. I mean, it's a good thing I've been making more money this year.
Which kind of
Mhm.
stinks with the streaming services because you can't play the same games like you do with the cable companies, where you're suddenly dissatisfied with their service and then they come begging back to you.
Yeah.
Nope. They'll be like,
Or
okay, cool, fuck off and go enjoy Hulu or
or
go enjoy HBO.
yeah, you
And they don't care.
just get a Karen, just have a Karen yell at them on the phone and they'll get the price right back for you.
No, they won't. because I've
Sometimes I
tried it
do.
before.
My mom did
Like
it.
cable and telephone will, but like the internet people, they don't give a shit
Oh, they've done it.
because you have to have internet. Everybody knows you have to have it. It's in this day and age, internet is like
which
digital
is
gas.
why
You
it
have
needs
to
to
have
be,
it to get anywhere.
it needs to be regulated as a utility.
Yep.
It needs to be, but that's
We're there.
But even
That's the problem.
regulations don't work.
That's a whole other conversation.
That's the problem is
Because
that
even
we're
regulations
there.
don't work great because they just raised our prices on our electricity now. The price per spin on that fucking dial, which is now a digital thing that they control remotely from their office.
Mhm.
So now you're paying them to literally just push a button, and you're paying more for that. Before you were paying for a technician to come out and read your meter and shit. They don't have to do that no more unless there's some kind of interference, and then they'll come out and look at it, and then they charge you for that shit.
Yeah, but energy costs went up for a multitude of reasons.
Plus, but it is like you earlier mentioned, Ricky, with the way internet is. We're so interdependent upon internet that there is no real, even though there might be written in the books types of regulations, there is really no regulation on internet
Nope.
No,
provisions.
they can do anything they want.
Nope.
And
And
it's
people try to
because
remember they
there's
used to get smart. They used to use their hotspots. Be like, oh, okay, I'll just use my smartphone's hotspot capability. Well, then the telephone people got smart to that, and then they started charging you for using your hotspot.
And then they charge
And then
you
they put
for
data caps on
data
you.
caps on
And
it.
then,
Yeah.
and then they do all this crazy stuff. So now, if you use your, I'm just not going to pay my cable bill this month. I'm just going to use my phone's hotspot. It's going to cost me just as much, if not more, and it's going to fuck up my phone if I try that shit.
Yep.
So I mean, they got you rocking a hard place with your balls in a vice. There's nowhere you can go.
and there really is it really is kind of become a monopoly because there's very little competition.
Oh, there's
And especially and it doesn't matter if it's rural or within any type of urban.
Usually it's just regional.
development.
Like you can only get this because you live in this region, but it's not like we used to have Cox. Well, we still have. You can go in Ocala proper, like the main part of the city. You have Cox cable, but out here it's Bright House. Even though we're still in Ocala, but they're not in direct competition because Cox isn't available out here, and Bright House isn't available in there. You have to use one or the other depending on where you live at.
Now, the thing at least about that, and then we'll wrap up here in a second. With that situation with the monopolies inside our main loop of our city right here, essentially, it's all the old system, which is Suddenlink, and a lot of the places that have been there for 30 years are all operating on old ass cable. You get outside of that where the newer parts of town have been built and they've actually been able to lay brand new high-speed cable, or in some places fiber. Yeah, well, no, there are some of the places do have fiber proper. That's where you actually get some market competition with Consolidated and a few other, I don't even know the other ones out here, to be totally honest, but Consolidated is one of the other big ones. But like within a certain radius of the center of town, you can only have Suddenlink, and it's fucking horrible unless you're in a brand new building that just went up. Where we just came from, over a year ago, our old place, dude, I paid more money to get higher speed and higher access because I was doing YouTube and all this kind of stuff, and the actual physical cable and infrastructure was so old that it literally capped me at my actual performance. So I never once got close to my true speed of my internet because of the actual infrastructure. Come over here, everything is less than 4 years old. I can actually have access to real internet, and then at least when my computer's not doing something stupid, we can have a 4-hour podcast, uninterrupted, So,
and now you guys, I know Rob's specifically for his job, and I know you do a lot for this other stuff that we do on the internet. Y'all know a pretty good little bit about the internet and how it works in your house and stuff like that, just because you have to use it. Like most people out in the world don't realize that you're paying that. I pay $99 a month for the highest speed internet available. Let's say 100 megs, 100 gigs, whatever. Let's say we're going to say 100. And they're like, fuck yeah. And then they're struggling to do anything. And they're like, I don't understand it. But they don't, again, it's a fine print bullshit. It's 100 when you're plugged directly into the router, plugged directly into the wall on a hard line. Any kind of Wi-Fi, drastic. We pay for the highest, and I think we're like 120 or 125 or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Dude, as soon as you go to the wireless PlayStation 4 in the living room, which is, let's see, about 10, 20, about 30 physical feet away from the router, but a straight open shot to it because the router's in the dining room on the wife's computer desk.
Yeah.
And it's just the open door from the dining room to the living room, and then it's just the other side of the living room, and it's straight across from it, and it drops from 125 to struggles to be 15.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So now like, oh, okay, well then we'll get you those little boxes that you plug in
The
everywhere, and
extenders,
they
yep.
they
not to
bump
get,
your internet.
and not
Go
to
ahead.
get technical about it. It's the internet, especially so first off, the internet that goes to your house is the speeds that you get that come actually into your house into what the cable provider puts in place, or the internet provider puts into place, is
Mhm.
only dependent upon how good your line is that's coming to your property,
100%.
and whether and what the age on that is, and whether or not a
Mhm.
squirrel has decided to also
Yeah.
hijack
Somebody
TV
clipped
signals
it
off
when
of
they were
it.
digging their lines,
Right,
you know.
exactly. You know,
Yeah.
where it's bent along the fence post. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly, that
Yep.
type of thing. And so, in order to get that fixed, most of the time it's on the property owner to have to shore
Maintain.
that, to feel that and maintain it, or to feel that
Mhm.
cost. If they want that improved.
Yep.
Yep.
Now,
And you know
internally,
another thing
inside
they
the
oh sorry,
house.
go ahead.
Right, I was
Go
going to
ahead.
say inside the house with Wi-Fi. It's whatever the router that, if you're going with the router that your provider set up for you.
Mm-mm.
It really depends on the provider. Like, for example, at one point, I had Time Warner cable in the Raleigh metro area. This is years back. You could buy your own router, and most you can do that. You can purchase your own,
Yeah.
as long as it's compatible.
It's
And
compatible,
sometimes you
and you
will
have to
get
let
better
them
speed.
know.
Sometimes you will get better functionality out of it than you do with the one that they
We have
provide.
2 routers. We went and bought a secondary nice router from Best Buy.
But you have to
And
remember
that
too, it's a radio. A router is nothing. A wireless router is nothing more
Yeah,
than
it's
a
just a
glorified
radio.
radio, and anything that is connecting to it is basically that. It's a radio station, if you will, and anything that's connecting to it, whether it's your phone, your computer, your
It's a
smart TV,
receiver.
the internet of everything, is a receiver. It's like it's the equivalent. It's the modern day equivalent of radio signals.
Yeah.
So it's not so much about line of sight, it's about how far out of that bubble is the signal strength going to be.
Yeah.
Obviously, the closer you are to that antenna, or whatever the base is, that's going to include it. Like you said, you had to use 2 because it's that sort of thing. There are ways to fix that. It's just a matter of basically Googling enough or taking the time to do so, because there
Well, I
are
know I can
people
run
that,
an Ethernet cord
and not for
all along
you.
my baseboard and run it all the way out there
Yeah,
under my
it's a
carpet and all
yeah.
that old school bullshit, but I don't want to do that. I had them come out here in my office, you know, in my collection room. There's a
There are
router.
ways. There are
There's
ways
a
to do it. You can use a Powerline Ethernet adapter, like I do for my work. You can use a Wi-Fi base, like what you're doing. You can use an extender, like what we have set up in your basement, or in my basement. I have an extender. We got it from Aldi, of all places, for $15, and it works miracles. So it just depends upon how you think about it, and especially for anybody listening, research that you put into it. And honestly, sometimes it is what your provider gives you for their garbage equipment that may have been used 15 times over before it was refurbished and given to you.
Now, let me tell you, do you remember when you had cable, like more back in the day before we had all these other options, when everybody pretty much had cable, right?
And then it was bad. Even then it could be poor, depending upon what your DB range was.
What I'm saying is you had the plug in your wall, like in your living room, to screw your coax into that and screw it into your TV. Boom, you had cable.
Most people do, and most people still have coax installed.
Wait for it. I'm getting there. Now you go into your bedroom. There's also another coax plug. So you plug a coax into that and plug it into your TV, and boom, that one has cable. You paid 1 cable bill. You got 2 TVs running off the cable. Correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Right.
We brought
correct. That's
them.
the assumption.
We brought them out here. Had them put the drop in. Like there was an empty power outlet. Like they never finished putting the power outlet in behind the TV in the living room. It was an extra one. It was like a phone line or some shit. So we had the cable the company come out here, do another drop in for an Ethernet plug, so that then I can direct plug all of our electronics in the living room into the Ethernet. Right, they have the router directly right there.
Yeah.
So they did that. We set it up, turned it on, worked great. Wife went to her computer. It didn't work. Those motherfuckers will only let you run one at a time.
Yeah.
If you want to run more than one at a time in your house, you have to pay extra for that shit.
Yeah.
Or you just get creative enough to learn how to do it yourself, like I did when I
That's
was
Yeah, that's
10
see
years old.
if this was
that's the thing is my brother does that. He works for somebody that does that kind of stuff, and I'm gonna get a hold of him and talk to him, have him talk me
yeah.
through it. Because I've gone up into the attic and looked, and it just looks like a spider web coming out of
So
one
Right.
box. It just shoots everywhere, and
exactly.
I
This
know you have
isn't.
to
So
This
break in
isn't.
somewhere.
To anybody listening, this isn't an impetus to go up into your attic, down into your basement, and go start cutting
Nope.
cables and
no.
stuff. Please
Only
do not.
contact professionals to do shit like
So
Thank you,
so
Ricky.
on this on this note, before we wrap up here, um, whenever we first moved in, we did have an issue. So they tried to hook up the router in the living
Mhm,
room because I wanted it next to the TV,
mhm,
and it wouldn't work. I was like,
mhm,
okay, what the fuck? So they sent a dude out, and he tested the lines, and there was something broken. Like there was a signal, but it was very weak. It was like
okay.
40% of what it should have been. And we're talking that's supposed to be like a so every main room in our apartment has a main drop. Like so
Okay.
the router is now here in the SHOKY cave because I needed
Mhm,
direct access because like you're talking about with the Wi-Fi. So if we had it set up in the living room, the Wi-Fi was fucking garbage. Even with
mhm,
it, so right now it's actually in inside my Besta with the Thundercats.
mhm,
It's actually inside the base of the Besta, and
mhm,
I actually have it with a straight Cat 6 cable because
mhm.
when I upgraded to the Cat 6 from the Cat 5, amazingly I no longer had issues streaming. Go
That's
figure.
crazy.
Go figure. So when you're talking about the range issue, and I bought some extenders to see if they would work. I bought a $20 extender, then I bought a $40 extender to see if that would help. And because we had no Wi-Fi, or at least really weak Wi-Fi, in the bedroom, which is basically clear across the house through several walls, all that kind of stuff. But there's a massive drop between where I lay in bed and where the wife lays in bed. She actually
Mhm.
doesn't use the Wi-Fi at all in the bedroom.
To get
She
better
actually
reception. Yep.
she gets better reception without it. Whereas on my side, I can use the Wi-Fi. It's sometimes iffy, but it's weird. Now in her bathroom, the main bathroom as it is, it's gone through several extra walls, so like it barely works at all inside there. But if I don't think they would force me to buy like a whole separate thing if I wanted to uh set up something in there. Like the TV's on the Wi-Fi, the Xbox is on the Wi-Fi and stuff like that because there's no connection at that wall anymore.
Mhm.
So there's something going on. I don't know exactly what it is, but I don't think it's a limitation like you were talking about where they will only allow you to use one drop at a time. I think that there's an actual physical issue with the wires because
If you
that
live in
whole
Texas, it's a prairie dog.
yeah, not on the third floor, it's not.
It's a
But that
really
whole
tall
th-
prairie dog.
but that whole box of wires as you were talking about is in our main bedroom closet and it looks
Yeah.
insane. Like I'm
Well,
just
sometimes it's about what's connected. Sometimes it's also about how much throw each line gets. Because remember, it's not a constant signal. It's not like it where you have your if you have your main line. Okay, this
mm,
is
Mhm.
sorry. I'm not going to get too technical.
yeah.
You have your main line. Pretend your main line is we'll call it a
I
number,
only
hundred
pretend to be
percent.
stupid. Get as technical as you want to be. I
We'll
will
we'll
follow
we'll
you.
say it's 100%. Okay, now I've
Hmm.
split it twice. So does that mean that I get 100% on both lines?
No,
No.
Oh, you get 50 and 50.
Hmm.
Right now,
supposedly.
take one of those lines and split it again. Does
Because
that
it's
mean
the
you get
same. It's the
50%?
same pizza. You're cutting it up into smaller pieces.
Cutting
Isn't
up
giving
into
you more
smaller pieces
pizza.
the longer you
Yeah.
go, and
Yeah.
just like a stream, just like a river to a stream,
Hmm.
that's the concept here. The farther along the stream you go, the more it splits up, the more it branches, the more
If
The
the
it's
weaker
less
the current
signal
branching,
is.
you're
Yeah.
actually
see,
getting.
you're right. You're right. If they're branching it, I agree with that.
Hmm.
Especially that's the way
Now
it used to work.
there are ways, and usually what happens is signal boosters are super cheap. Those are the
Hmm.
types of things you would use
Yeah,
because the signal
an
booster
inline
actually
signal
takes that
booster. Yeah,
100 and it boosts that signal to let's say 150, and all of a sudden
You're
you're
getting
not
75 in
tossing
each stream instead of 50.
yeah.
Yeah.
exactly.
So
And so it's all about understanding the concept behind it, and not to say that you don't, just saying like this is how cable and the cable providers work.
yeah.
So anytime you call out your cable company to say my TV is getting really cruddy, crappy signals. It looks staticky, something. They will come out there and they test for it's basically the decibel signal.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Decibel signal is basically how strong it is.
They'll just
It's
reroute the
not
stream
just
to
your
stronger. Yeah.
it's not just your signal though, it's yours and your neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
So you're really splitting with your neighbors. I lived in a community where it was a bunch of townhouses, and the signal was split 15 different ways.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to lose out on the end because they're the farthest out, or because they have the least, or because they have the most number of devices and the least signal.
Okay, so like the way I said spiderweb earlier, that might not have been a good analogy because I know people think like a rat's nest or something. It's not that. It's very clean and very structured how it looks. Anybody that's ever worked in like a soldering or wire harness building, it looks like a wire harness board. Like all the lines are laid out very straight. They all come out and go to their direct areas. Some of them are even stapled down to the boards across my fucking in my attic.
Yeah.
But I watched them when we first had them try to do that to the office. I don't, there's a technical term for it. I don't know it, but you'll understand what I mean. All right, so you have the coax coming out of the main box. So they had the coax coming from the outside into the attic. That one went into the box that branched off into the house. Okay. Well, I watched him go up there, and what he did is he took this like a I guess an extender, like the double-sided like male bolts. So it was into this one coax attached to another coax. He just took it out of that one and moved it to a fucking another one, and then put I call it a dud. They put like a thing in it. It looks just exactly the same, but it doesn't have the internal, so it won't feed any signal from one side of that coax joint to the other.
Yep.
And
it's a terminator. Yep.
Yeah, it's a terminator. That's the word. Thank you. God damn, that was such a stupid word for not knowing. But yes, they terminated this one and they just moved it over to that one and said, okay, it's on, go try it. And I go try it. And I'm like, cool, now let's go try this one. We go try that one. And it's not working. He's like, oh, da, da, da. And that's when he went through the whole thing. You have to pay. I have to pay them monthly an extra bill to have more than one of those coax extensions put in, to take the terminator out and put an extender in, to be able to feed off into multiple areas.
Part of that is sometimes that's contracted with the cable companies too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It sucks balls. They literally have everything under control.
We can only give you two live hot, two hot live feeds.
Mm-hmm.
This is what they do, and this again goes back to
the regulation
cable regulation thing. So and just like with our concept of cable to being a stream with a river, it's the same with digital streams. We're talking about media, what we enjoy watching, and how much are we willing to pay for each individual stream, or are we willing to just focus on what we want to watch, just stick to that and forget the rest?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
That seems like a good spot.
I'm sticking with my DVDs, man.
Well, I guess you can do that.
I might backtrack and get VHSs. Fuck all y'all.
Yeah.
I actually have Batman Returns on VHS still in the fucking clear, like the whole case is inside that clear clamshell thing they used to have at Blockbusters.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes. All right, let's wrap up then. This isn't a normal episode, so we don't actually have to do like a K-buy or anything, so this is an extra. But either way, guys, let us know what you think down below, either about the Batgirl, almost said Supergirl. I'm never going to get it right now.
Dude, you're all over this one today.
Yeah. Got ahead.
Batwoman,
Catgirl. Now we're at Supergirl. Actually, let us know what you think about Supergirl being canceled.
I non-binary DC superhero movie.
Oh god. Yeah, that's the Flash movie. That's the Flash movie.
I just threw up all over the microphone.
Yep. I could just see. Okay, so what was that meme you posted, Ricky? Was it Keaton Batman looking at Ezra Miller
Batman? Yeah.
So I just wanted
the Batcave.
I just wanted to add
all the monitors had Ezra Miller on them.
So I want to add underneath that as a caption, what exactly is a non-binary?
Yeah.
And then leave it at that. So you see old Batman like, I don't know what the fuck this is.
Like, but actually, because it's old Batman, you have to be like, what's non-bat binary?
It's not that old.
You have to have bat in front of everything.
It's the bat non-binary.
Bat non-binary. There you go. Bat non-bat binary.
So you saw my bat CPAP post, Ricky.
No, I didn't. Did I?
Oh, you go check out.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats.